While threatening the US, North Korea launches a ballistic missile into the South China Sea. A television screen shows footage of a missile launched from North Korea during a press conference at a train station in Seoul, South Korea, on Wednesday, July 12, 2023. North Korea launched a long-range missile over the East Coast on Wednesday. North Korea threatened a shocking outcome 2 days ago in response to US spying near its territory. On Yoongjun, AP. North Korea launched a ballistic missile into the South China Sea after the US, South Korea and Japan's NATO summit in Hawaii on Tuesday. U.S. spokesman Colonel Dave Butler, Gen. Chief of Staff Mark Milley told Reuters that the announcement came at the end of a long-planned tripartite meeting. According to CNN, the ICBM appears to be another test flight of the Hwasong-18 ICBM made by the country earlier this year. It took off from North Korea and landed in waters off Japan after a 74-minute flight. The missile was previously described by North Korean leader Kim Jong-un as its most powerful nuclear weapon. South Korean President Yoon Hye-yeol, who is in Lithuania for the NATO meeting, held an emergency meeting Wednesday morning to discuss the missile launch issue. His office said it would call for strong international solidarity at the summit. Related. U.S.-China relations. North Korea on Monday accused the United States of illegal violations of the country's airspace, the Associated Press reported. In case of unlawful intervention, the USA. According to CNN, Kim Jong-un warned that the Army will be the main aircraft, in a statement released by North Korean state media on Tuesday. According to the Associated Press, U.S. officials described the charges as justified allegations and urged North Korea to not escalate. South Korea said on Monday that the incident involved normal flight of South Korea-U.S. flights. The United States is interested in open water. North Korea has launched nearly 100 ballistic missiles since the start of 2022, according to the Associated Press. After Tuesday's U.S.-NATO meeting, South Korean and Japanese officials launched a joint missile from Hawaii into the South China Sea. Colonel Dave Butler, spokesman, Chief of Staff Mark Milley told Reuters the announcement came at the end of a long-planned tripartite meeting. According to CNN, the ICBM looked like another Hwasong-18 ICBM test flight conducted by the country earlier this year. It took off from North Korea and landed in waters off Japan after a 74-minute flight. The missile was previously described by North Korean leader Kim Jong-un as its most powerful nuclear weapon. South Korean President Yoon Hye-yeol, who is in Lithuania for the NATO meeting, held an emergency meeting Wednesday morning to discuss the missile launch issue. His office said it would call for strong international solidarity at the summit. North Korean state media KCNA confirmed that it had tested the Hwasong-18 intercontinental ballistic missile, ICBM, saying it was a warning of military action by the United States and its close allies. The launch on Wednesday from the east coast of the Korean peninsula was condemned by South Korea, the United States and Japan. The UN Security Council also said it will meet on Thursday to discuss the publication of the US, Albania, France, Japan, Malta and UK request. The missile was initially introduced by South Korean and Japanese authorities. For example, the South Korean chiefs of staff said they detected a suspected long-range missile launch from the Pyongyang area around 1000 hours, 1 o'clock Greenwich Mean Time. Japan's Chief Defense Secretary, meanwhile, Hirokazu Matsuno, announced that the gun flew 74 minutes, reached an altitude of 6,000 kilometers, 3,728 miles, and had a range of 1,000 kilometers, 621 miles, the longest flight. Record the flight time of the North Korean missile. The Japanese Coast Guard said the missile eventually crashed into the sea in eastern South Korea. North Korean state media reported that the leader of the country, Kim Jong-un, personally watched the missile. This test is an important process aimed at the continued development of the Republic's strategic nuclear forces, the state-run KCNA news agency said. North Korea reiterated its threat this week. Kim Yo-jang, the sister of leader Kim Jong-un, rejected U.S. plans to send nuclear weapons underwater from the peninsula, and threatened to kill the spy plane that had recently killed the U.S. spy plane. Violated the airspace. Leif-Erik Easley, a professor at Ua University in Seoul, said the speech was part of North Korea's model of hurling external threats to gain internal support and act as evidence of weapons tests. These South Korean and Japanese leaders discussed the effort made against him at the NATO meeting, he said. He said he violated UN sanctions and expressed strong opposition to Beijing through the media. Matsuno said talks are also planned with Australia and New Zealand. We will respond in cooperation with the international community, said at the press conference. Pyongyang is constantly testing weapons to improve its army. This year it launched its first intercontinental ballistic missile, ICBM, and attempted to put the first military spy satellite into orbit. The effort failed, but officials promised to try again. Analysts think the announcement is one of a series of oil-related developments before North Korea confirmed the news on Wednesday. This will be the second test of the Hwasong-18 ICBM based on the results of the first launch, said Kim Dong. Yes, a professor at the University of Korean Studies in Seoul told Reuters. Yang Uk, a researcher at the ASEAN Policy Research Institute, said this latest attempt is also an attempt to save reputation and keep business going after the message failed. North Korea is prohibited from using nuclear weapons, including radio transmission, under United Nations sanctions due to its nuclear weapons program. South Korea and the United States are scheduled to begin an annual military exercise called Ulchi Freedom Shield next month. North Korea views such exercises as a practice for deterrence, claiming that its military actions are the appropriate response. Commercial satellite imagery shows North Korea planning a major military parade for the July 27th holiday, including a massive military parade to celebrate its victory in the 1950 to 1953 Korean War, analysts said. The missile was launched from the regional capital of North Korea at around 10 a.m. at a maximum altitude of 6,000 miles, 3,730 kilometers, and traveled approximately 1,000 miles, 620 kilometers, for South Korea and Japan, respectively, before landing. Medium water. Japan rating. They said the missile was fired from a high angle, and observers said it was an attempt to evade neighboring countries. Japanese Prime Minister Hirokazu Matsuno said the missile flew for 74 minutes, This is the longest flight time ever recorded by any weapon fired by North Korea. The previous record was 71 minutes, broken last year during the test flight of the liquid-fueled Hwasong-17 intercontinental ballistic missile. The South Korean military described it as a grave crime and asked North Korea to stop making any further announcements. Matsuno condemned North Korea's repeated missile launches as a threat to the peace and security of Japan, the region, and the international community. During our conference call, senior nuclear experts from South Korea, Japan, and the United States agreed to step up cooperation to counter North Korea's aggressive behavior and promote strong international response to North Korea's nuclear and missile programs, according to a statement from the Seoul Foreign Ministry. The launch occurred while South Korean President Yoon Suk-yeol and Japanese Prime Minister Fumio Kishida were attending the NATO meeting in Vilnius, Lithuania. At an emergency meeting of the South Korean Security Council convened via video conference from Lithuania, Yoon warned that North Korea would face severe international penalties for making blade weapons illegal. North Korea's intercontinental missile program targets the U.S. mainland, while its shorter-range missiles aim to hit U.S. regional allies such as South Korea and Japan. North Korea has conducted several intercontinental ballistic missile tests since 2017, but some experts say that North Korea still needs some technology to be able to have a missile. The energy package can reach key areas in the Americas. City. North Korea's ICBM test in April was the first of the Hwasong-18. Following the launch, Kim Jong-un said the missile would enhance North Korea's counter-terrorism capabilities and expand North Korea's arsenal to deal with great anxiety and fear against its rivals. On-board solid propellant missiles are easy to transport and store, making it difficult for attackers to intercept them first. All previous ICBM tests of North Korea used liquid fuel. Kim Dong-yub, a professor at the University of Korean Studies in Seoul, said Wednesday's announcement appears to be the second test of North Korea's Hwasong-18. Earlier this week, North Korea made allegations that the United States was flying a military aircraft near its territory. Kim Jong-un's sister and senior advisor, Kim Yo-jang, warned late on Monday that this is a dangerous situation, he has demanded. Earlier today, U.S. surveillance planes flew 8 times over North Korea's Eastern Special Economic Zone. The United States and South Korea denied North Korea's accusations and urged North Korea not to act aggressively or use bad language. "I just want to say that we continue to push North Korea not to escalate," State Department spokesman Matthew Miller said on Tuesday.